Hello everybody and welcome to Mailbag Monday for November 4th, 2019. Today's question is, Bing, there are many things of course that can bring variety to dulcimer playing. Hammer-ons, pull-offs, tempo, attack, volume, to name just a few. But on many iconic songs, it is the riffs, those spicy little add-ins that make what an otherwise pedestrian song actually sing. Think for example of Don Felder's work on Eagle standards like Hotel California or Already Gone. So could you share some of your favorite riffs and take us through how to develop our own spicy riffs? Many thanks. Well, thank you very much. That's a great question. I will do my best to illuminate things here. Illuminate, not eliminate. Given what I'm doing today, for those of you who know, it's kind of funny. All right, so there are a lot of different things that combine together to create a compelling piece of music. We've got our rhythm, we have our melody, we have our chords, and then we've got our arrangement, how we put all that stuff together. And what's not melody and chordal support is going to be part of that arrangement, embellishments, little lines that come in here and there. You could call them riffs, licks, lines. There's solos, longer improvisation-based sort of approaches to melody that stand in for melody or the lead vocals. A lot of different things. But a lot of these other lines, they are not necessarily melody, they're repeating phrases. The phrase is another word you would use for some of this stuff. They are hooks. They are musical things that can be repeated, and sometimes people will latch onto those, because largely people will sing melody or hum melody. Not a lot of folks hum chords, unless you're a two-van throat singer. And yes, you can even do mouth beats and vocalize percussion. In fact, one of the most well-known rhythmic licks out there, or motifs, is boom, boom, cha, boom, boom, cha, boom, boom, cha, boom, boom, cha. And of course, that's We Will Rock You by Queen. So there are a lot of these little things that can serve as hooks, even if they're not melodic. But most licks and these types of things are melodic indeed. And they're harmonic as well. Another good example of that type of thing would be this. From Brown Eyed Girl by Van Morrison. Along those same lines would be this one from Jimmy Buffett. From Margaritaville. Another one is this very, very simple riff from Green River by Creedence Clearwater Revival. And that one is just a descending minor pentatonic scale. Very, very simple, grabbing a scale and using it to punctuate the end of a line, the end of a melody, and these are short phrases, bite-sized things that are repeated over and over again. Oftentimes they are not played while you are actually singing or playing the melody. They're there to provide counterbalance to everything else that's going on. But sometimes this riff can be the foundation for not only the percussion rhythm, but the bass rhythm as well. Take this very, very famous bass riff from the blues world. That repetitive phrase right there is being carried by the drums and the bass, is echoed by sometimes the melody lines and rhythm sections, but it can sit there and percolate under the entire song while things are sung over the top of it and other things. So there are different layers and different types of these fill-in licks and riffs and so forth that you can throw in. Some of them will swim along with the melody, others will wait for the melody to end. And it's all a lot of personal preference on how to make that stuff happen. So I like throwing things in every now and again to fill out an arrangement. And this could be for fast songs or for slow songs. But these little repetitive riffs that you can use are usually born out of everything that you're working with chord-wise and melody-wise. So it's very easy then to go and find something that and I guess I'll put this way. A lot of the most famous riffs that you've ever heard are not there because they were technically challenging, but because they were right there under the fingers of the player and they were very, very easy to play. One of my favorite little riffs to do is kind of something like this. This sort of soloing thing, I first started playing with it when I started working with Running Down a Dream by Tom Petty. So that song's in E, you know. So while the chords are playing, the middle section here, while those chords are playing, the solo is going over the top. Tom Petty's doing his thing. And one of the solo bits that he does is he uses a double stop, which is hitting your strings, putting your fingers down on them, and then using another finger to come in and play those notes as well. And so he's got this little solo line that he does during the tune. Over about 3 or 4 measures, he does this. And it's a cool little circular, very simple 3-note riff. And so I began using that in other areas of the fretboard. So, you know, how would you use that? Let's say I'm playing, oh, I don't know, something like this. That's a real easy thing to get to. I'm really only hitting middle string at the first fret. I'm going open, then the middle, and then hitting that melody string. Another rich little turnaround is going open 1, 2 on the middle string and then hitting your melody string. At the end of a phrase, just kind of hanging out where your hand is already hanging out. I like to take notes down and walk them down across the strings down to the bass. So I might finish a phrase like this. Or a lot of different ways you can play that one basic line, just wrapping up the end of a phrase and taking it down to the home key or the home chord that we're playing, which in this case is D. So how can you throw some of these things in without having to think about them too much? What are little things that you can add in to make a song unique and have that extra element of spice? Is whenever you're done playing the melody and the melody's hanging out for a long period of time, you can throw something else in there. And wherever you are, hand-wise, position-wise, just keep it in that area so you don't have to go flying around the fretboard to look for something else. Somebody think about one of my tunes here. This is Undertow. This is not my newest song, but the newest one that's being performed out there right now. And so its main push is this little riff right here. All I began with were the chords. And the chords at this point are D minor, F, G, D minor, C, G, D minor. And it just repeats that over and over again. By itself, given a little bit of rhythm, it's kind of fun. But you can see that it's just got chords and it's got some rhythm to it, but there's nothing standing out. There is no melodic content. Now the song itself hasn't started, and the lyrics, the vocals will carry the melody, but there's still melodically nothing happening over those chords. So I want to create something over those three chords that's very, very simple and easy to play. I don't want to have to, make it too crazy. The most important thing here really are those chords. Those chords need to be there for the support for everything else. So I began to look at it. D minor to F to G, back to D minor, C, G, and D minor. I'm not actually hitting the F in the D minor, I'm playing it open. So I wanted to get my finger in there to get that D minor more clear and realize that that's the first note of the riff right there. So what can I do with that? I can roll it off of the F at the 1.5 fret down to 1 and open. That's a nice beginning of a riff right there. I could have left it right there for sure, but I wanted something else. So I began messing around, keeping in mind the notes that are at my disposal in this chord. I took it to the middle string and found another couple of notes that would work really well in D minor. And then that movement there is so quickly, I don't need to really throw anything in there. The melody itself could be the F and the G on the melody string, or it could be the C and the D on the middle string. Doesn't matter, it's the movement of those two power chords that is driving everything. And then I go back to the lick. And then there's another chord, and another chord. They happen very quickly. So because they do happen so quickly, I'm not too worried about having some melody go on there. But the riff is filling out everything else. So that's one example of creating something that can serve as a hook, and then people might remember that. They may not, excuse me, they may not hum the chords or the rhythm, but they might hum, and that's one of the first things they're going to hear in the tune. And oftentimes a riff will serve as the first melodic bit of information that you hear in a tune, but it won't actually be the melody. Sometimes it will be, but other times it may not be. It'll be simply something that you play that you can, hang an arrangement on. So let me give you some examples of how you can just kind of create some other examples how you can create your own riffs. Remember your scales across the box. So if we're playing like a G major chord, I have an L-shaped 3-3-5 G major chord here. My G major scale runs from the 3rd fret to the 6th fret on the bass string and on the middle string, and all the notes on the melody string from the 3rd fret to the 6th fret are all fair game because they're the same notes that are on the bass string. So I can bar the 3rd fret and then hit all of these notes. And then I have these notes as well. Starting with that, let's say that we're going to be holding a G chord for 2 measures. And then we're going to go from the G chord to a C major chord for 2 measures. and then go back to our G chord. So we're going to play along and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and we're back to our G. So while we're in this formation, any of these notes in the G major scale can serve as a riff. So we can play with all of them and see what kind of melodic activity we can pull out of holding this G chord and then going to the C chord. So let me see. That actually works over both the G chord and the C chord. By repeating that over and over again, you're replacing that hook so that when people hear, they're like, that's the song, that's the song. So that's a simple riff right there, and it's all right within reach. You don't have to go running around trying to make something acrobatic or difficult or challenging. It's right there under your fingertips, and just kind of mess around. Let me see if I can find a different riff to go over those two chords. That one's not as great because I'm using the 7th note of the scale. The 7th note of the scale can be a little dodgy. I was doing much better using the 3rd and 4th and the 2nd notes of the scale. And the more you play with these things, the more you'll see which notes are going to be better served. Your lily pad notes are going to be the best notes to use because they're the notes that are actually inside the chord. Any of the notes in the chords supporting scale will work, but some of them will work better than others, and the more you play with them, the more you'll find them, and the more you will work with them. When playing in D open, I like to take my lines sometimes and run them down into the bass line area. So maybe I'll do something like this, like my version of Hard Times. I'll do like this. That is the tune, that is the melody, and then you could stop right there and strum that chord and not do anything else. Or I could tag the melody with a little bit of a riff that gives me some arrangement, like this. That simple little walk down puts a tag on things. It's not part of the melody for Hard Times, but it is part of the arrangement that you are working on for Hard Times. And by putting these little bits of melody at the beginning, at the end, in between phrases, you are adding arrangement, but you're also adding memorable bits that people will be able to attach to and understand. And playing across the strings makes it very easy for you to do this without moving up and down the fretboard too much. So you can get a lot of good range by moving along. So one of the things you can do is when you're hanging out with a chord for a long period of time, take a look at what you can do melodically to add a tag to it and experiment with those. There are some turnarounds as well, you know. I like coming over on the middle string when I'm playing in D and grabbing that first fret on the middle string. And you can see how that really livens things up instead of just going. But just that little tiny bom 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 3-note riff turns this into this. got a little extra something something. It's not fancy, it's not flashy, but it does add to the entire experience. So that is a basic look at basically what riffs are, how they can be used, some good examples of riffs, and some suggestions on how you can make those riffs, whether you're playing across the strings or whether you're holding chord shapes and then also using the scales there to make your riffs. And how big and how involved or how simple the riffs are up to you and what you're trying to accomplish. So throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, and keep messing with it. But do consider all options, and when you find those things that are working for you, by all means, throw them in there in other songs and use them as often as you can. These are all tools that you can use. And after you start doing that, then you can start messing around with harmonizing those things a bit more. And one of my favorite things to do is to get on the middle string and then go down one fret, so we've got this partial harmony going on, and then kind of strafe that as you're moving back and forth when you're doing your tunes. It's very, very effective and very, very easy. You can also turn it the other direction. So if I'm doing a tune, I can go like this. So I can reverse that and get some other flavors over there. Quick little moves, very, very, very simple things that can create a very, very long-lasting impression. And then, as you begin to think about it some more, you can craft your riffs and your licks to be a little bit more sophisticated. But there's a good starting point. Mess around with that some, and we'll look into this in the future as well and see how you guys are all doing. Please send me all of your Mailbag Monday requests, bigfutch@yahoo.com, and I will get on them as we continue to dig down deeper into being home. And once I get all of this surgical stuff out of the way, I'll have a lot more time to focus on writing this stuff for you. So I hope this answers your question. I hope it answers many of your questions, and we will see you next week right here on Mailbag Monday. Thanks, everybody.